Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all, and today we are going to be talking about Dumon. So today is Duel Links Prediction Day. Dumon is coming out later this month. Not too much to talk about because Dumon's not really an important character in Zexal. He is essentially Nash's second-hand man, but Vector is the one who's kind of like running the show and influencing everyone. Dumon's position as like a leader means that he doesn't really step into the fray too much. Alito, Garag, and Mizar are the ones who are doing all the heavy lifting. So Dumon, I believe, only duels 2 or 3 times in the show, and he's not given the opportunity to demonstrate many of his cards. So there's not too many that have been printed. And the most important thing to note is that all of his Star Serif cards, like Star Serif Scepter, and Star Serif Sovereignty, and Star Serif Sage, were already given to us in the Infinite Ray box. We have every Star Serif card in Duel Links except for Dumon's Ace Monster. So let's go over that real quick. Dumon's Ace Monster is number 102, Star Serif Sentry. Number 102 is a rank 4 light fairy monster that requires 3 level 4 light monsters. There are very few archetypes that could reasonably make it such a monster, mostly just Teller Knights, Constellars, and Star Serifs. This monster has 2,500 attack points and 2,000 defense points. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, then target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Have its attack points also negate its effects. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed, you could detach all of its Xyz materials instead. And if you do, any battle damage you take this turn is halved. Interesting. That's kind of how protection in Zexal worked. They really focused on taking half damage a lot. So it's an interesting idea. But Star Serif Sentry, of course, is just a stepping stone to the real goodness, which is the Chaos number 102. Chaos number 102, Archfiend Serif. This is a rank 5 light fairy monster that requires 4 level 5 lights, but you'll just make it with rank up Magic Variance Force. 2,900 attack, 2,400 defense. If this face-up card would be destroyed, you can attach 2 materials from this card instead. Okay, so it can protect itself multiple times in a turn, and it doesn't cost all of the overlay units. If the last Xyz material is detached from this card, inflict 1,500 damage to your opponent. That is going to be halved to 750, but that's a cute little idea. Like, you protect your monster a couple of times, and then you will get, maybe you use it to effect once or twice, and then you get to burn your opponent for a good chunk of damage. If this card has number 102 Star Serif Sentry as an Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, change that target's attack to 0, and if you do, negate its effects. Okay, both those effects are permanent. Being able to reduce one of your opponent's monster's attack points to 0 and then negate its effects permanently, pretty nice. It is a targeted effect, so not every monster will be vulnerable to it, but this will essentially allow you to, going second, crash into something for 2,900 points of damage. Is that good? You have to actually make Archfiend Serif first, so we'll have to see if there's any sort of skill that allows us to get Star Serif cards on the field. Star Serifs are already pretty consistent, which is why they've gotten nerfed in Duel Links, but they're not good enough right now, even with the Teller Knight package to use. Maybe what they're missing is a good boss monster, but I don't know that Archfiend Serif is good enough. It doesn't have a quick effect, so again, this is kind of like the problem that I've reiterated multiple times on this channel, where the game is balanced around you being able to choose to go second, and we don't have that choice. So that makes decks a lot harder to build and play, especially when they just simply don't have interaction. Not every deck has interaction, then you have to like try and force interaction, and Star Serifs in particular are like, you might think, well, it's just a rank 4 engine, they could play like Abyss Dweller, they could play Exciton Knight. No, because Star Serif Sovereignty, which is like one of the most important cards in the deck, can only be used as material for a monster that requires 3 or more monsters as material. So Star Serif Sovereignty is like a really good board flooding card, but you can't use it to make a rank 4 that requires 2 materials. It's not allowed. The The other monsters gain effects. We should talk about these. I know that Star Serifs are already in the game, but they're an old archetype, so you guys might not realize what they actually do. So, Scepter gives an Xyz monster that was summoned using this 3 or more monsters this effect. When this card is Xyz summoned, you can target one other card on the field, destroy it, and if you do, draw a card. So that is an effect that triggers immediately as an ignition effect. So it's not just like you have to detach to target something. It will immediately happen when the monster is summoned. So at the very least, you get something out of Xyz summoning number 102, even if it gets removed immediately. Star Serif Scale says, once per turn, while this card has Xyz material, if a monster is special summoned from the hand, immediately draw 1 card. It's either player's hand. It's an interesting idea. And that's it. Those are the only monsters that buff it. So those effects are both pretty good, pretty strong effects, but they're not quick effects. I mean, drawing a card during your opponent's turn is pretty nice, but it's not, unless you're playing just like playing 3 effect failures and 3 Ghost Warners, that's not going to win you the game. So yes, those are the 2 cards that are in the archetype that have been printed. Now let's talk about the other cards that Dumon has used that have not come to the game yet. And those cards are Saraso, the Double D Battlefield. This is a field spell. Each time a monster is Xyz summoned, the summoning player takes 500 points of damage. That will be halved to 250 points of damage. During each player's end phase, the turn player takes 250 damage if they control a face-up Xyz monster. Okay, so this is an anti-Xyz card, which will punish Xyz players for Xyz summoning if you go first, and they don't just destroy the card. That is not a very good card. It's very specific, and there's synchro summoning, there's link summoning, there's fusion summoning. You can just special summon from the hand. Like, Xyz summoning is not required to win the game. And if you're trying to restrict something from someone from playing a card, you want the card to be like devastating. So you could play a card like Summon Breaker, and that card does see play because it affects everything. You want 2 monsters on the field to link summon, you get 2 monsters, you link summon, now your turn's over. Same thing with Xyz summoning, same thing with synchro summoning. That's why Summon Breaker sees play. Saraso is too specific, and even if you do take 250 damage when you Xyz summon, if that doesn't kill you, it probably won't matter too much. So I do think that this card will probably come just because they don't have enough cards to give Dumon, but it's going to be a bad card. The other card he's played is called Saraso Lighthouse. When a spell or effect that would inflict damage to you is activated, you take no damage from that effect. Okay, so you can activate this card from your hand to prevent yourself from taking damage. While this card is in your graveyard, you take no damage from the effect of Saraso, the Double D Battlefield. So you guys are probably thinking, why is he playing an anti-Xyz card in an Xyz deck? He has a card that prevents it from affecting him. When this set card is sent to the graveyard, you can add Saraso, the Double D Battlefield from your deck to your hand. So you set this card, then you can like sacrifice it to do something. Maybe you play like Parallel. There's like a spell card that lets you like send 1 card on your field to the graveyard to send 1 card, send 1 spell or trap you control to the graveyard to destroy a card on the field. You could play Storm, which destroys all your spells and traps to destroy as many spells and traps for your opponent. Yeah, so these are the only 2 cards that he's played besides his aces that have been printed. Then there are a few Star Serif support cards which have not been printed. These could reasonably come to the game as like a tag force, sort of non-printed anime card. And the first one is called Sacred Shield. When a trap is activated that would inflict damage to a player, that damage becomes 0, and if it does, 1 fairy monster on the field gains attack equal to the total amount of damage that player would have taken. During the end phase, you take damage equal to the total amount of damage that players would have taken at the activation of this card. So it turns burn into attack points, and then you take the burn later. That's really bad. That's terrible. It will probably come because there's just no other good cards to give him, but it's really bad. Then we have Celestial Rage. Destroy one light monster you control. During your turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. One face-up monster you control gains 2,000 attack points. Also, all battle damage to your opponent taken from attacks involving that monster is inflicted to you. These changes last until the end phase of the turn. Okay, so that's an interesting idea. So you can play Celestial Rage, and then you use your Sacred Shield to make it so that the damage that you deal to your opponent dealt to you, you negate it, and then your other monster gets attack points. But you have to, like, in order to put this card in the graveyard, you have to destroy one of your own monsters. And that's a spell card and a trap card from your opening hand. Like, you have to have Celestial Rage, you have to have Sacred Shield, you have to destroy one of your own monsters. That's 3 cards out of your hand. Then you have to, like, survive with the 1 card you have left. So this seems really situational and not at all like it would work in Duel Links. And then the last card he activated is called Star Serif Star Scream, which is a quick play spell card. When a monster your opponent controls is destroyed, if you control a Star Serif monster, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. Okay, this is terrible, but it's not bad like the other card is. You're not losing anything to activate this card, except for you're playing a bad card. So this is a card that I could easily see coming to Duel Links as just like, okay, you have a Star Serif monster, your opponent's monster got destroyed, burn them for 500. Why not, right? It's a bad card, no one would play it, but it's probably better than nothing. You know, they have to give him drops, they have to give him level up cards. So yeah, this card will probably get printed. And that's it. That's all he's caught. That's all he's played. You could give him generic Barian support cards, but I doubt that they're going to do that because they're probably saving that for Nash. So yeah, those are the cards. That is Dumon. And my name is Sarafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.